What is coercive control? Coercive control is a pattern of behaviours that an abuser will engage in severe forms of domestic violence over prolonged periods of time to obtain and maintain control over another person. Coercive control involves persistent behaviours that erode a person's autonomy, their safety, their self-esteem, their self-confidence in their day-to-day activities and their ability to seek help. It is an intentional form of prolonged oppression and is recognised as a form of domestic terrorism to install fear, trauma and anxiety in the target. Coercive control is also prevalent in child abuse, obsessive-compulsive stalker relations, and intimate partner violence cases. Coercive control is difficult to identify. It is crucial to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy relationships in life. A perpetrator typically inflicts coercive control on their subjects' emotional, mental states using manipulation tactics, control of their finances, and deliberate sabotage efforts. Coercive control affects all sectors of society across every nation on earth. It is dangerous, it's highly damaging, and should never be tolerated in any relationship ever. Coercive control includes brainwashing and surveillance tactics similar to those used within cults and with victims of child sex trafficking and human trafficking rings. Coercive control is highly prevalent in the global spiritual community, particularly over the last 20 years. Some spiritual masters, shamans, spiritual gurus, spiritual practitioners, and spiritual teachers misuse their spiritual gifts to remote view, mentally, emotionally, and sexually harass their targets. They also utilise technology-based surveillance on computers, phones, motor vehicles, and in some cases, home and workplace CCT surveillance devices to manipulate and control their victims. Coercive control has been highly prevalent in different spiritual schools and witch covens across Australia, New Zealand, USA, Europe, particularly West Europe, Philippines, India, Malaysia, over the past 20 years. Coercive control has resulted in the unnatural and premature deaths of 10,000 plus spiritual practitioners and spiritual teachers and masters and members of witch covens over the past 2 decades across Australia. Behaviours and impact of coercive control. Coercive control includes financial and emotional abuse, isolation and threats. It can be deeply traumatic and damaging, often existing without physical violence. Coercive control is a complex form of psychological and emotional manipulation, often found in abusive relationships. It involves a pattern of actions aimed to exert dominance over an individual, typically by someone personally connected to the victim, such as a partner, a family member, close friend, a teacher, or a work associate. Key aspects of coercive control include psychological abuse, emotional control, and economic or financial sanctions. With financial abuse, that involves isolating the person, making derogatory comments about them or to them, threats and restrictions. It also includes gaslighting, where the abuser manipulates the victim's perception of reality. With emotional control, this uses emotions. With emotional control, the abuser uses emotions to manipulate, humiliate, and undermine the victim's confidence. It involves making unreasonable demands, diminishing boundaries, and invalidating the victim's experiences. With economic and financial sanctions, financial control is utilised through imposing fines or restricting financial freedom or employment of the victim.